I never imagined I'd have to fight to protect my own home, especially not from Karen Winters, the president of our homeowners association. But that's exactly what happened after a ruptured appendix landed me in the hospital for 3 weeks. It all began 6 months ago when I moved into Willow Creek Estates, a quiet suburban neighborhood with pristine lawns and strict HOA rules. I'm an architect who works from home, and I'd saved for years to buy this house, the one I thought would be my sanctuary. The day I arrived, Karen Winters showed up, clipboard in hand, wearing a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome to Willow Creek," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "I'm Karen Winters, president of the HOA. You'll need to familiarize yourself with our bylaws immediately. Rule breakers aren't tolerated here." She handed me a 3-inch binder packed with regulations, inspecting my moving boxes as though they were contraband. "Your mailbox is 2 inches taller than allowed. Replace it within 7 days or face a fine." I thanked her politely and promised to review the rules, which seemed to disappoint her. Later, my neighbor Tom confided, "Karen thrives on confrontation. She wields her power like a weapon. She's been president for 5 years because no one dares run against her. Most folks just try to stay under her radar. For a few months, I followed the rules and kept interactions with Karen minimal. But everything changed when I planted a vegetable garden in my backyard. The bylaws allowed gardens as long as they weren't visible from the street. Mine was completely hidden behind a decorative fence. But Karen had other ideas. One Saturday morning, she appeared at my door, her face flushed with indignation. "Your garden violates Section 12, Paragraph 4 of the bylaws," she declared smugly. "Vegetable gardens must be approved by the Landscaping Committee, which I chair." I calmly showed her the relevant section in the binder she'd given me. Gardens only needed to be out of street view. "I think there's a misunderstanding," I said. "The bylaws don't require committee approval for hidden gardens." Her eyes narrowed. "Perhaps the bylaws need updating. Until then, remove it by Monday or you'll be fined $50 per day." I refused to take down my garden. In retaliation, Karen began documenting every minor perceived violation. My grass was a 1/4 inch too tall. My garbage can was briefly visible after collection. Even the color of my garden hose was distracting. Fines piled up, but I contested each one at monthly HOA meetings, citing the bylaws, which often overturned her claims. Nothing enraged her more than being publicly challenged and losing. After one particularly heated meeting where the board ruled in my favor regarding the garden, she cornered me in the parking lot. "You think you're clever?" she hissed. "Nobody has ever made me look foolish in front of the board. Nobody. You'll regret moving to Willow Creek. I promise you that." I dismissed it as a tantrum, but I was wrong. Karen Winters didn't make idle threats. 2 weeks later, I woke in the middle of the night with excruciating abdominal pain. Rushed to the hospital. I was diagnosed with a ruptured appendix. Complications led to sepsis, turning a routine surgery into a 3-week hospital stay and another 2 weeks of home recovery. While I fought for my life, Karen fought for my home. Tom later told me he'd seen her entering and leaving my property repeatedly. She claimed she was checking on things and watering my plants. But in reality, she was orchestrating an elaborate scheme to steal my house. The first day I returned home, weak and disoriented, I found an official-looking notice taped to my door. Due to abandoned property regulations, my home had been claimed by the HOA and transferred to Karen Winters. The deed purportedly showed I had sold my house to her for $1, signed in person before a notary, while I had been unconscious in intensive care. "This is fraud," I told the county clerk, my voice shaking. I was in the hospital. I couldn't have signed anything. The clerk sympathized, but explained I'd need to challenge the deed legally. Meanwhile, Karen had filed an eviction notice, giving me 72 hours to leave. I called my cousin Jennifer, a real estate attorney. She arrived immediately, reviewed the documents, and confirmed this was clear-cut fraud. "We need an emergency injunction to stop the eviction and then file criminal charges, fraud, forgery, and breaking and entering," she warned. While Jennifer worked through the night, I collected evidence. Hospital records proving my presence in the ICU, timestamps showing I couldn't have signed anything, and security cameras around the house. Sure enough, the next morning, Karen appeared at my door with two strangers. "These gentlemen will help you move your belongings," she announced with a triumphant smile. "I've generously given you until 5 p.m. instead of waiting for the official eviction." I blocked the doorway. "Karen, you forged a deed while I was hospitalized. That's a felony. My attorney has filed for an emergency injunction and is preparing criminal charges." Her smile faltered, then she composed herself. "That's ridiculous. You signed the papers yourself." "I have notarized documents proving it," I said, holding up my hospital records. "I was in intensive care, unconscious from sepsis. And the security cameras I installed last night just recorded you admitting you expect me to vacate a home you fraudulently claimed. Do you want to continue this conversation, or wait until we're in court?" The two men with her exchanged uneasy glances and quickly backed away. "We were just told this was a routine eviction. We don't want any part of this," one muttered. Karen's face twisted with rage as her helpers abandoned her. "You think you're so smart?" she snarled. "I have connections in this town you couldn't imagine. By the time I'm done with you, you'll wish you'd walked away from this house." That same day, the judge granted our emergency injunction, securing my right to stay in my home while the case moved forward. Jennifer also filed a criminal complaint with the district attorney, submitting hospital records, the forged deed, and the security footage of Karen's visit. The investigation proceeded quickly. The notary whose stamp appeared on the deed had no record of the transaction. A handwriting expert confirmed the signature wasn't mine. Bank records revealed Karen had made large purchases of furniture and appliances a day after the supposed transfer, showing she intended to move in. The most damning evidence came from her laptop. Drafts of the deed transfer, internet searches about claiming abandoned property and forging signatures, and a floor plan of my house with notes about which room she planned to redecorate first. 3 weeks after my return from the hospital, the case went to court. Karen arrived confident, dressed impeccably in a business suit, carrying an expensive handbag. She clearly believed her community status would protect her. She was wrong. The judge, an older woman with steel gray hair and piercing eyes, reviewed the evidence with growing disbelief. When Karen's attorney tried to argue there had been a misunderstanding about my hospital stay, the judge cut him off. "Counsel, the evidence shows your client forged documents to claim ownership of property while its rightful owner was hospitalized with a life-threatening condition," the judge said, her voice tight with anger. "This is not a misunderstanding. It is criminal fraud of the most egregious kind." When Karen took the stand, her composure cracked under Jennifer's questioning. She initially insisted I had signed the document before going to hospital, but confronted with timestamps and medical records proving I was incapacitated, she shifted her story. "He was going to sell it to me anyway," she said defensively. "We had an understanding. I just expedited the paperwork." Jennifer asked, "Do you have any documentation of this understanding?" "No, it was verbal," Karen replied, her eyes darting nervously around the courtroom. "A verbal agreement with a man unconscious in intensive care?" Jennifer pressed. Karen finally snapped. "He didn't deserve that house. He moved in and immediately started breaking rules. That garden was an eyesore. His mailbox violated regulations. Someone had to teach him a lesson." The courtroom fell silent as her own words revealed her motive. Her attorney buried his face in his hands, while the judge's disgust was unmistakable. "Mrs. Winters," the judge said, addressing her directly, "this court finds that you knowingly and willfully committed forgery, fraud, and attempted theft of real property. Serious felonies in this state." She turned to the bailiff. "Please take the defendant into custody." Karen's eyes widened in shock. "You can't be serious. I'm the president of the HOA. I volunteer at the community center. People respect me." "Mrs. Winters," the judge replied coldly, "you attempted to steal a man's home while he was fighting for his life. You will be held without bail pending formal sentencing." Then the judge looked at me. "Sir, the fraudulent deed transfer is immediately nullified. Your property remains legally and unequivocally yours. The court also orders Mrs. Winters to pay restitution for any legal fees you incurred defending your home." Finally, the judge delivered her closing blow. "Mrs. Winters, Based on the severity of your crimes and your lack of remorse, you face a minimum of 5 to 7 years in state prison and up to $75,000 in fines. Karen's face drained of color as the weight of reality hit her. But my reputation, she stammered, as the bailiff guided her toward the door. My position in the community? The judge said sharply, you should have considered that before committing felony fraud. She then moved on to the next case on her docket, leaving Karen's downfall sealed and justice served.